This Inspired By video was brought to you by melodic rock, most likely by the 80s. Where would the world be, I often ask myself, without power chords, soaring solos, and tasteful arpeggios? Let me go ahead and break this track down for you. The first guitar part is basically playing all power chords. E, D, C. And we're really in the key of E minor, but I'm just playing the power chord, which is just a root, and the fifth. With the big power hit. And that's all guitar part 1's doing. It is double track though, so you'll hear it on the left and the right. When I was recording this song, I went ahead and added an organ sound, and I found that those power chords were getting a little bit dull or buried kind of in the mix. So I just started stacking guitars upon guitars. And for the next guitar part, I'm basically doing octaves. Of the power chords, D, E, D, C, C, D, E. But I'm basically playing them up here, so this is another way to play power chords. Here's the root and the fifth. And the shape looks a little bit different, obviously, than this power chord shape. And that's because of the way the B string is tuned. You kind of have to move up one fret to grab the fifth on top. There's where I'm picking up the G. So it's just an octave of the G that's lower. So that's really all guitar part 2 is, and it's just, again, to add a little more clarity to the chords that are happening underneath. So guitar part 3, again, I'm just trying to add a little more clarity, and I'm just making things sound thicker. And all I'm doing there is really playing only octaves. I'm playing the E here and an E here. And I'm sliding the shape down, which looks like that power chord shape, but I'm not playing the fifth. So I'm just going. And here I'm jumping up to the G. And again, I just started stacking these guitar parts to add more clarity and just give it a little bit of a thicker pad for the solo to lay on top of. Now with those long drawn out power chords, I felt like the song needed a little bit more of a rhythmic element to it, but I did bury it low in the mix. And sometimes you'll find this where you're stacking different guitar parts on top of each other, and you don't have to make all of them sound crisp and clear to the ear where they're that obvious, but if you take that part away, you just notice something's missing. And all that was happening here is up here on this high E, I'm just doing eighth notes. So I'm just doing E, D, C, just following the chord changes. Picking up that G here. So that's really all I'm doing. And then I decided for the last guitar part 5, I'm just going to do the octave again down here. With those 8 notes. So adding those and then splitting those, not 100% left and right, but maybe 35 or 45, you're starting to fill up the whole sonic spectrum of this bed of chords that are underneath the lead guitar part line. So for the final guitar part, I did basic arpeggios at first, outlining the chord changes, but I didn't do the traditional arpeggios you might be used to. I didn't play those. What I did was I just played out of the whole bar shapes. And all I was doing is I'm playing the root, the fifth, and then jumping up and getting the third on top. And instead of playing it with the bar shape, I was basically playing it one note at a time. And this will require a little bit of practice because you're kind of jumping over a string. So I'm jumping over the G string, hitting the B string. And I climb that back up. And you'll notice I'm also palm muting this part. And to add a little bit of aggression, I'm kind of bouncing into it. So after the first descending arpeggio line and then ascending arpeggio line, I'm going to start again with the E minor, but now do an inversion of the D chord. And all I'm doing there is I'm playing the F sharp here, jumping up to the root D, and then hitting the fifth now on top. But it's the same strings. I'm basically playing off of the A string, the D string, and then the B string again. And then for that G, I'm doing the same shape that we saw for the C and D chord. So those are kind of tricky to practice at first, but once you get those shapes down, you really can move them all over the neck. And an inversion, by the way, if I didn't tell you what that was already, this D shape is the root position because we have the root D in the bass. Well, here is first inversion because we're putting the third F sharp in the bass. And so first inversion basically means you're adding the third as the bass note. There's another inversion, which would be second inversion, where we would have the A in the bass note. But for this song, we're just basically using the first inversion. So after that series of arpeggios, we're starting to introduce a little bit of a melodic motif. And one of the signature sounds in this melodic rock genre is doing half-step bends. So you'll notice I'll do a B. So I'm doing B to a C. And I have to tell you, these half-step bends are really tricky because you just have to find that right spot. To bend those notes. But it really does add a very lyrical or like a singer sound to these notes. And I'm doing the same idea, but now off of this, the F sharp to the G. Oh. So there's one way to practice this. You can play the note you're targeting, and then try to hear it in your head and sing it in your head. So after the half step bend, I'm on this D note and I want to go up to the E. So I'm going to do a bend. And then I'm going to add vibrato to it. This is kind of a signature move in this sound where you kind of bend up to the note first and then you add some wild vibrato. Just to give it, again, more of a singer quality. If you ever notice a singer when they sing a whole note, then they'll go ahead and add the vibrato at the end. So they kind of hit it flat at first, and then add that vibrato. And then we're going to go back down and do the same motif again. So by doing these motifs, we're really just getting the listener more engaged because we're repeating things. And repetition can really be your friend when you want a listener to really grab onto your song. The same half-step bend on the F sharp to G. But this time, since the chord is a G, we're going to end on B. So it goes. And then that same motif again. And then it ends on another signature move, which is unison bends. So all I'm doing there basically is I'm bending up this D to the E. So I also have the E on top. And then I'm choking the note quickly. And then turning it off so the delay will echo through it. So the whole solo kind of goes like this. that's really it for the entire song. Now remember, I offer the backing tracks for free as a download. If you want to practice this song and practice the guitar parts, there's actually 2 tracks. The first one is the full band, and the second one is all the guitars are stripped away. So you can kind of build your own guitar parts on there or learn the ones that I shared with you in this video.